Hi everybody, I'm Adeline with Premier Guitars Big 5. What's my favorite bass? If I had to pick just one bass, I would choose a vintage Fender P bass with flatwounds. Why? Because I have to say that some of my favorite songs were recorded with vintage P bass, flatwound. All of the Marvin Gaye stuff, James Jamerson and even Chic. Bernard Edwards is one of my favorite bass players, and I guess I would say not all, but a lot of old school soul music and funk and disco was recorded with those types of instruments. I do not own the perfect dream vintage Fender yet. It'll come to me one day. I mean, some of my friends have some, and whenever I've played one, it's always been amazing. And my teacher, my mentor, had like the one that I just really dreamed to have, but I'll find it one day. Out of the instruments that I own, my favorite it depends, because I have my favorite for live shows and I have my favorite for recording. So for live shows, my favorite is a Mulan bass. It's a Korean brand. It's a P bass, and it has round wounds on it. I don't really love to play flat wounds for shows as much as I do in the studio. It just sounds great, and it's really light, which is important for me for live shows also, because it tends to hurt after a while. And it just sounds great. I've been playing it for a while, and it's pink, it's cute, and it sounds great. I think the attack on the round wounds is a little bit more intense, and it cuts through more for me in terms of live shows. Also, it's a little bit more versatile for slapping. I don't really love to slap with flat wounds. I don't slap that much on stage, but enough that I would not want to compromise with using flat wounds. And also with different pedals and having a little bit more treble and attack, it's just and the feel, in terms of, to me, I don't know, and it's something that it's a stigma in my mind, but for me, the round wound feel is for live shows, like the way it feels on my fingers, like it's almost, and the flat wound is more of a studio, like personal, intimate feel. That's just how I connect with the instrument. In the studio, my favorite would be a Fender P bass with flat wounds. I love the question, what's my Desert Island album, as much as I hate it, just because it's so hard. I wish I could pick at least 5. The first album that came to mind when I heard the question was Hear My Dear by Marvin Gaye, which is also kind of weird, because who wants to hear about divorce for the rest of their lives lost on an island? And it just shows so much about the genius of Marvin Gaye and how the music is so sexy and so soulful and so deep, and just something that I could listen to on forever and be the only thing that I listen to. And the lyrics are so well written, but at the same time kind of detached from the music in a way that you can listen to one or the other if you choose to. My desert album would be Hear My Dear by Marvin Gaye. My biggest bass pet peeve would be, it might be a surprising answer, but I feel like I want to use this opportunity to address that. I've had many instances in which I'm sound checking, and the sound person decides to show me how an amp works or explain to me how things work, and I'm 99% sure it's because I'm a woman. So that's what I would say is my pet peeve, is how we're still associating masculinity with bass and guitar. And it's funny now. I mean, I usually turn around to my guitar player and we kind of laugh, because it's happened even like just this year in January, where we're about to sound check, and the sound guy comes and he's like, okay, so this button, you plug this into here, and this is mute, and it's an Aguilar amp. But anyway, so I think that's sort of my pet peeve still. It's I'm saying that in a cheeky way, but there's a lot of depth attached to it, and it's important to address it. I used to get upset, and now I just kind of play the role of, oh, really? Okay. And then the minute I start playing bass, they're like, yeah, let them feel bad about themselves. Not that I'm amazing, but the minute, actually can sort of play. So it's just great. I feel like that's the best way for them to learn, and it's, you know, I try to have compassion and not take it personally, and just show it to them by just playing well, you know. I have a lot of bass heroes, and which one might surprise my fans. I guess I should answer with somebody or some kind of music that people haven't necessarily heard before. I don't have a specific name, but my dad is from an island called Martinique, and our national music is called Zouk. And I grew up listening to that music, and I started playing bass way later on, and dug back to those records from my childhood and these songs from Zouk from the late 70s, early 90s, and the bass in those songs is amazing. There's a lot of slap bass, and I need to research the name of those bass players, and I apologize for not knowing, but there's a band called Kassav, Kassav, and if you check out those records from the 80s, the bass player is absolutely slaying, and I realized that it's been in my brain since I was very little. So that would be my surprise bass hero. My secret weapon is that I really don't know what I'm doing. I started playing bass pretty late. I started with guitar at 17, and then only when I was 20, 22 did I start playing bass. I didn't go to school. I wish I did, but I didn't. Can't call myself self-taught because I've had so many mentors, and the generosity of amazing bass players around me allowed me to learn so much. But I would say that's my secret weapon, is because I can't play a lot of stuff, because I don't have all of that language and versatility. I just stick to the pocket and the tone. And I think that's sort of my secret weapon, is that I don't know enough to be able to do too much, and therefore I don't do too much. My bass mentor, Fred Cash, told me something. He was playing me these old funk records, and he was like, "They didn't know any better, Adeline. They were just playing with their hearts." You know, there were a lot of these funk, you know, musicians that weren't necessarily scholars, and they're still way better than me, but for me, it's more about creating that memorable bass line and that just undeniable groove than highlighting the 6 or the flat 9 in the chord, you know. The best advice I've ever received is we don't make music for musicians.